Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast. Now, remember, in last episode, we got to listen to Dan Kennedy as he talked about sales strategy. In this episode, we get to continue the discussion with Bill Glazer. Bill Glazer is going to be taking the microphone for part 2, and he's going to give you a sales weapon. Now, if you stay for the very end of the episode, he's going to reveal what that episode is. Even though he says, we're going to tease it for another session, we've edited that into the end of the episode, so just stick around. We'll make sure that we open the loop and close the loop in this episode for you. Also, Bill Glazer is going to go into what SNDing is and how you use it to be able to make your sales weapon that much more powerful. Let's jump in and listen to Sales Weapons, Part 2 with Bill Glazer.
I don't think there's anybody that has had a bigger impact in the field of direct response than Dan Kennedy.
The legend of Dan Kennedy should be ignored at your own peril.
They're not really lessons, they're kind of laws that you live by.
Dan opened my eyes to what small business marketing looks like.
Dan teaches strategic direct response that is timeless.
His ripple effect touches people who don't even know his name.
The world as we know it was changed because Dan Kennedy became obsessed with marketing.
Welcome to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with your host, Dan Kennedy.
So in keeping with this theme of sales weapons, I'm going to show you a weapon that I created for a client of mine, and I'm going to walk you through the process that was put together. But I was hired by a bank. I like working typically with places that house money, so it was a very nice kind of combination, and I did my very best to have them part with as much of their money into my account as I possibly could during the process. But I was hired with a bank that had multiple locations. As a matter of fact, it had 5 locations. And they had one location that it was a relatively new location, and it was really struggling. So they asked me to come in and to work with their location specifically to help them along and to work with their bank trying to get more businesses to be doing business with them. How many of you are in the B2B business? Okay, so all of you that are in the B2B business who says, well, gee, what we normally teach is B2C. You're about to see a B2B example here. Of course, all of you that are in the B2C business, obviously you want to be able to take this and also move it to your business because all this stuff works in all businesses, but sometimes people still have blinders on thinking that B2B is different than B2C. However, I'm going to show you a B2B example, and this is this particular bank. So what did I do? I did a combination of a couple things. But one of the big things I did was sequential marketing, outbound marketing to the bank. And the very, very first mailing that I sent out to them was this, which was a actual bank bag. Actually, I can have a little better illustration of it here. But this is the actual bank bag. So we mailed this out to people. So 2,000 business owners within the buying in the area to do business with this bank were sent this. We purchased a list of them, and inside of this bank bag, we put in. And by the way, as you can see, you can easily mail these things. You just put a stamp on it, and $1.19 off this thing went. It's also important to understand, which is the fact that how this gets to the clutter. Now, all of us, every day, gets the big pile of mail, right? Well, when you get the big pile of mail, and in this pile of mail, there is a bank bag in there, you think somebody's going to look inside this one? Okay? So I'm getting past everybody else's mail that's going out there. And inside there, I put in I wrote a letter, a sales letter. The answer to every problem in life is a really good sales letter. And we send out a sales letter, and this is why is a bank manager sending Kevin Wallet, so it was personalized. Each person who received it got their own name in the headline. Not everybody got Kevin Wallet's name, okay, in the headline. And it says, a letter in a bank deposit bag, the answer below might surprise you. And then the letter goes on to say, I'm going to actually read you this letter. I hope you don't mind me addressing, it says, Dear Kevin, and it comes from Rachel Hurd, the bank manager at your service. I hope you don't mind me addressing you by your first name, but as the bank manager at the Farmers and Merchants Bank in Owings Mills, that's exactly how I feel about our clients, as friends. In fact, when you walk into our bank, we strive to treat you like the old TV show Cheers, where everybody knows your name. The truth is, I have taken the liberty to introduce myself to sending you this letter in a bank bag, by sending you this letter in a bank deposit bag for two reasons. This is the old Gary Halbert, why am I putting a dollar bill on the top of a letter? Those of you that have been around us long enough, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about haven't been around us long enough. Number one, I have something extremely important to share with you, and I need to get your attention right away. So, number two, since what I have to share with you involves dealing with money, I thought mailing you a bank deposit bag as an eye catcher was especially appropriate. Okay, since I know your time is valuable, let me get right to the point. Farmers and Merchants Bank is a full-service bank that offers all the services and amenities as one of the huge corporate type banks that are also in the Owings Mills area. And then what we have on the front page is we have two testimonials on here with actual photos of the people with their comments, and at the bottom we have the actual services that they provide, check cashing, on and on. It was 12 actual different services. Then the letter goes on to page number 2, and there what it has there is, but there are many services that we offer that other banks just seem to match us on, and just can't seem to match us on. I'm reading much better now. And I'd like to quickly tell you about just a couple of them. Number one, absolutely no hassle-free business checking. Then I explain what that means. Number two, overdraft protection. Then I explain what that means. Number three, me and my 24/7 team. I'm proud to say that no other bank offers this level of service. When you open up any business account with us, I will assign to you not one, not two, but 3 members of our senior team to be on call for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on and on. Now, I got all that stuff by those 3 things that I just said to you, by the way, I got out of a 20-minute interview with the president of the bank. These are 3 pretty good things that they were offering that they weren't even telling people about. So there's a lot of times that businesses are offering services that we take for granted, but you really need to have somebody look at everything that you are offering to try to figure out what are you offering that others will appreciate but you take for granted. And then I go on to say, I hope at least I have your attention because I'd like to ask you a simple favor, and I'm even willing to shamelessly bribe you for your time since I know that your time is valuable. I'd like to ask you to fill out the simple form included and with this letter and fax it back to my attention. As you can see on the form, the questions are not very personal, but it will give me an opportunity to see how we can save you money and provide you better banking services. Once I receive your response and evaluate it, I'll give you a call to discuss your needs and how we can take better care of you than your present bank. Plus, just for taking your valuable time to fill out the form below before August 11th, we will deliver to you a choice of free gifts. What could be fairer than that? Choose from one of these 6 shameless bribes free gifts. And then what we have on the bottom of the letter, I have the first 2 gifts there, which the first one is electronic digital voice recorder. Gift number 2 is a 3-piece pen and letter opener in a wood glass case. Gift number 3 is a Castle wall clock. Number 4 is a Chef Master 18-piece all stainless barbecue set. Number 5 is a Maxim 101-piece tool set. Number 6 is a Yourcraft 15-piece highway emergency kit. And then I just go on to say, finally, I hope that this is just the beginning of a long and happy banking relationship and friendship. Dedicated to your success, Rachel Hurd, manager. P.S. Please fax back the enclosed form before August 11th to receive the shameless bribe free gift of your choice. P.P.S. I've also enclosed real comments throughout this letter from other business owners and entrepreneurs in the Owings Mills area to prove to you that I mean what I say. And then including this, we have a no-risk free business evaluation form where they answer 3 simple questions. Number 1 is, what's your average monthly service? Under $5, under $10, over $10. Number 2 is, do you currently have a commercial mortgage loan or commercial line of credit? Yes, no. Number 3, actually part of number 2, if yes, what is the current interest rate? Under 7%, between 7 and 8, over 8%. The third question is, Rachel, please contact me about the following, and we list all the stuff that are the different services they provide, and then it says, choose your shameless bribe free gift, and then they pick the shameless gift that they want to choose, and then all they have to do is fax it back to them. So here's the contest, and I'll show you the rest of the other two pieces. The contest is, in this letter somewhere, there's a really, 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 really big marketing secret in there. And anybody who knows the big marketing secret, tomorrow morning, you have all night to think about it. And tomorrow morning, actually sometime tomorrow, may not be tomorrow morning, we're going to let people get up in front of the microphones there. And if you tell me the right big marketing secret, I will give you this free gift that's in there. Okay, great. Well, we'll look forward to that tomorrow morning. So anyway, the first one was this bank bag. Pretty good, right? Sending this thing out. By the way, I just want to point out a little something to you that's interesting. I've used this bank bag for years for many, many mailers that I've done. I've never used it for a bank before. It was it was like great that the client hired me because I got a chance to use something that actually applied to what it is that I was sending out. But let's talk about mailing number 2. Here's mailing number 2. Mailing number 2 is this one right here. It's a clear plastic bag, and inside the clear plastic bag, there's a little bag of shredded money. I can also tell you something interesting about this bag, this shredded money. I've used shredded money before for years. Never used it with a bank before. It was just great to be able to use a bunch of stuff that actually applied to the client that I was actually using. But the important thing is, what I just pointed out to you is a bank bag, sending something out with your letter inside will get through the clutter. Shredded money, using shredded money to in there also gets attention. By the way, anybody know why I used a clear plastic bag? So you can see the damn money, right? What good is using the money if you can't see it? And actually in here, it's basically the exact same letter that I sent out before, almost identical letter. I didn't really do much more work on a thing, although I charged the client a lot. Don't tell them I didn't do a lot more work. But it just says here, Mike McGregor, why is the same bank manager who sent you a letter in a bank deposit bag now sending you real shredded money? And the rest of the letter is almost identical to the last letter. I didn't change it that much. I just changed the headline on it in my sequence. And then the third one that I sent out, the third piece that I sent out is really my famous pop-up envelope, which is an envelope that all it does is it has on the back of the flap when you open it up, it has there it's attached to the back of the flap. This is what I call my famous in-your-face offer envelope, because when you open it up, your envelope is right in your face. So anyway, in there I just put the exact same sales letter in there. So I created one good sales letter. Okay, I created one great sales letter, and I reused it 3 times using a process, a bank bag, shredded money in a clear plastic envelope, and then in an envelope that opens up in the back. Now, needless to say, more new clients in 1 month than the entire last year. Using this exact process, which is in the past, their process has always been the traditional process that any bank ever sends out, which is the crappy little postcard that says, come in and you give us $10,000 and we'll give you a toaster. So this was a very, very different process. And we'll be looking forward to tomorrow from you, trying to find out who thinks they know the really, really, really big marketing strategy. Now, I'm thinking you might know it because I might have revealed it at a peak performers meeting. So you got to play fair. And now all the other peak performers members that are here, they don't remember it, because they didn't raise their hands. But there is one strategy that's there that is really when I share it with you tomorrow, all of you are going to say, I should be using this in my business. So do you want to hear that? Do you want to hear it now? Sure. Forget it. So you'll see I share it with you tomorrow. Okay. All right, so that's the first one. That's the first sales weapon. By the way, how many of you think that you could take a weapon like that? I just showed you 3 steps and almost S&D that for your business. Oh, sure you can. I can tell you that I don't give a damn what the business. You could be in the funeral business, and we'll put you in a coffin. That thing will work. So using that, I don't care what the business. As a matter of fact, in Peak Performers, we have a guy in the funeral business, and he is the sharpest funeral director around, Okay, let me show you another one. This one is, I want to show you an example, a terrific example of S&Ding. And I've got a lot of S&Ding that I use. Typically when I show outrageous advertising, I show a lot of S&Ding. S&Ding is stealing and deploying, taking from one business and moving into the other business. This one here, Lee mentioned before, how many people here have heard of Dr. Greg Nielsen? I know, she asked you that before. You don't have to tell me again. So I know a lot of you have heard Dr. Greg Nielsen. Those of you who don't know Dr. Greg Nielsen, long time Glazer Kennedy member. As a matter of fact, he started with Dan in 1902. And he walked in the room. You started with Dan way back then. And Greg is really, I think he's probably the best chiropractic marketer in the country in terms of what he's sending out to his patients. Sending out to his patients approximately every 20 days or getting a mailing. This particular one right here is one of his all-time most successful mailings, which is, we want to give you a free office visit and say to Dr. Nielsen, we told you so. And on the bottom of this, he puts there 2 tickets, admit 1 tickets, to come into his chiropractic office. Now, the normal person would look at this and say, this is a fabulous piece for a chiropractor. That's what the normal person would look at. The Glazer Kennedy member would look at this and say, this is a fabulously successful piece. How can I use it in my business? So when I looked at this, at that time, I had a menswear retail business. And I said to myself, how can I look and use this in my business? So I took his piece. I'm glad Greg's not here because he always doesn't say this, but I took his marketing piece, and of course I had to make it a little better. So what I did was, the first thing I did was I changed the envelope. I moved the envelope. This is what I call this official looking envelope. This is the kind of envelope that normally you get from the government to tell you either that here's your refund check or here, please go right to jail, one or the other. So this comes from Bill Glazer. There's a lot of marketing strategies on here, copywriting strategies. I'm not going to teach you, but I did I changed the envelope. I'll show you that. I also have here, your tickets are enclosed. So much like what Dan said to you earlier today when he talked to you about some copy that was used on his membership renewal piece, when he said information about your membership is enclosed, I have to put copy in here that will increase the chances of it being open. And I put here, your tickets are enclosed, which the curiosity would pretty much get them because they're thinking like the tickets to the Grateful Dead is enclosed. But here, my letter goes with, we want to give you free admission tickets to the one-day savings event on March 24th and say to Bill Glazer, we told you so. And on there's my 2 admit 1 tickets, exactly the same tickets that Dr. Greg Nielsen used. Now, there's a whole story that's in here, the same way that Greg Nielsen had a story in his letter. And my story is basically the fact that my employees are had bet with me that they'll do a lot of business and people will come in during this one day. And if they don't do that amount of business, then if they don't do that amount of business, they got to buy me a steak dinner. And if we do this amount of business, I got to buy all of them a steak dinner, so they want to win a steak dinner. And so now there's sort of a contest. But basically it's the exact same principle that I just showed you with Dr. Greg Nielsen, of moving from one area as a selling weapon, one that we know that works, and moving it to my own. By the way, I had to buy them all a steak dinner, just for information. One more I'm going to show you real quickly, and then Dan's going to come up here and talk to you a little bit about the phenomenon. But one more that I want to show you is this. How many of you have ever heard of, who hasn't heard of FedEx? Okay, so that's very instructive. Is now borrowing from what is known, what is familiar with you. Who has never heard of priority mail? That's instructive. Borrowing from what's familiar with you. So therefore, I created my own Priority Express letter. Now, I own this. Anybody wants to buy it, we have a license agreement available. I don't have any guys in brown running around. I don't have any, that's all I got is an envelope. I created my own envelope, okay? And inside I got my own next day Priority Express mailing piece that goes on the outside. And in there, I have a sales letter in there. I use this again for my menswear store for my next day Priority Express mailing. The sales weapon secret that I'm showing you right here is basically this, is borrowing from the familiarity. Taking what we know that people will look at and say, gee, because I know FedEx, because I know next day priority mail, this is something that I am familiar with, so this must be something that's important, but it's a way for me to actually, instead of spending $10 in order to send out a FedEx letter, I can now send this thing out for well under $1. So it's a way to very smartly multiply your mailings, because when I would do a mailing from a menswear store, it would always be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 of our customers. I didn't want to spend $10 a piece. I didn't mind spending $1 or $12. So there's another sales weapon secret for you that we'll show you. So now we're going to ask Dan to come back up here, if you would.
Being worked hard today. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I just...
well, what seems to be the lesson learned there?
Yeah. I'm not sure yet, but I'm working on it. And I can't resist, before I do what I'm supposed to be doing, I can't resist saying something about the two pieces that you just showed that you didn't mention. Well, first of all, you actually should thank me for the last one, because I probably won the battle with the post office years before you used that, when they wouldn't mail and we had to get attorneys, and, yours looks better than mine, though. But even mine fooled some of the postal carriers. There's a side benefit to that piece, by the way, if it's done right. Some of them actually get delivered by the guys racing out there in the trucks, delivering them at 7 o'clock at night, because they can't tell them. I'm honest, okay, because they just look at it and think, oh, shit, here's something else they didn't tell us about. And they jump in the truck, and off they go. No, about those two pieces, there's something very important that he didn't mention that ties back to what we talked about earlier. In terms of, so one of the tipping points is preparing them for the sale event, right? And so the more preparation you do, the less resistance there is, the better they are when they show up at whatever it is they're supposed to show up at and whenever they're supposed to make a purchase. So in his case, he's bringing them into a retail store in order to buy clothes. Okay? So here's the preparation genius of what you saw that you may have missed. Okay? And it may not have started out this way even. So the Nielsen piece, you're inspired to copy it, but here's the preparation genius. Because I sent you tickets, and you have to use a ticket to get in, okay, you now have a different perception of the sales event than if you didn't have tickets. And since you now have something of value to get you into this event, what are you more likely to do? Go and buy more. Sort of the two objectives. The same thing with the fake priority mail piece. The people who believe it's real, because he went to the trouble to, and in their mind expense to, send them this urgent piece of mail about this event, it prepares them differently for their behavior at the event than if you sent them something else. So the control of their behavior starts all the way back here at the advertising and marketing stuff we do. And then every little brick you lay along the way, all the way to turning, and I take the coat off like this, that's all control of this prospect. And so that's something about both of those pieces that was not said, but is another reason to pay close attention to them in addition to the one Bill mentioned. So you are smarter than you even told people you were. And somehow that ought to get me out of work. But it didn't. Okay, we're going to give you something that was not originally planned for the seminar, and we are going to make use of you. So which would you like to hear about first, the making use of or the giving to? My choice. That's correct. That's the correct answer. That's right. That's exactly right. My choice. The giving is, we're going to give you sort of some advanced information about something new that we have coming out regarding the phenomenon. And you'll have sort of a first opportunity to lay your little paws on it. Don't be, no. Relax. Okay? Geez, Sherry. And actually, it doesn't matter because this is like bubblegum money in terms of money, so it's not a money issue. But the use of you is we need to tape, give or take, we need to film a 30 to 40 minute presentation about this for other purposes, and so you're elected to be the audience. So we are using you for a completely different agenda of our own, and consequently, the presentation is a little more formal and less casual than we've been up until now, so that we get it on film relatively right. But it does have, you do get an advanced look at something, and you do get some information that's pretty important. So the last thing I would say by way of introduction, not part of the film, is that we've had questions like, and probably one of the most common questions we get, and since a lot of you, this is your first event, maybe you're relatively new to us, one of the most common questions we get is, where do I start? You know, I got all this stuff, and you keep showing us more stuff. And we got advertising stuff and marketing stuff and sales stuff. And by the way, sales design leads to management stuff and supervisory stuff. And where do I start? You know, and Bill and I both tend to give sort of gentle, kind answers, especially to new people, to that question. And so some of you got like our usual stock answers when you ask it one-on-one. Bill's answer is usually, join Peak Performers, and then they'll help you figure out what to start, which is somewhat of a self-serving commercial answer, but it also happens to be a legitimate answer. I have this answer where, well, there's sort of 5 ways to get at it. You can think about what's easiest for you to start with or where your greatest area need is. So I have that kind of answer. The best answer is the one we don't give you normally because it scares away new people. But here's the best answer. The best answer is you do it all at the same time. See, that's really the best answer. Okay? And there's a couple of reasons for that. One has specifically to do with the phenomenon because we're going to be talking about speed. But the other answer is, I used to drive really old, bad cars. And I don't know if any of you have ever driven really bad, really old cars. Okay? But like, I had things like a 1960 Chevrolet Impala that I bought for $25 on payments, and it was, and it was not 1960 or anywhere approximating 1960. Okay? Here's what I learned real quick: don't put in one new part. Okay? You can't. Thing can't accommodate it. Okay? The shock to the system of one new part, the whole thing just dies. Okay? And so you got to put in old parts that are just a little better than the new one, or you got to put in a bunch of new parts all at the same time. So like keep the chassis, change the whole engine and the transmission, right? And so when you take a business system and you put in one new thing that's really good and everything else is still kind of messed up, quite frankly, you don't really accomplish a lot, and you may cause the whole thing to blow up around you. So the best answer to you is you do it all at the same time. You launch multiple initiatives simultaneously, not sequentially. And that's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around. But it is the only way you get to speed, which really is the point of this presentation. So,
all right, so what is the answer? What was the major, big marketing secret in that sales letter I created for the bank?
It's the choice of the free gifts.
We have a winner. So stay right there. We'll get you in a second. So let me explain it to you. And so a couple things happened there. Number one is it was an involvement device. Thank you. So we got now what we do is we have the people that are reading that sales letter. What they're doing is they're not thinking, do I want the gift or don't I want the gift? They're thinking, which gift do I want? So we're moving people away from a yes-no answer to a which one answer. And that's a very, very big difference in marketing. You can do it a lot of times in a lot of your marketing pieces, which is you can actually give people choices. You want to get them as much involved as you can. We oftentimes in some of our sales letters will actually have lists of things, say, which one of these apply to you? Here, check them off. I actually in the past have sent out pens with my sales letters. I've included a pen to make it absolutely easy for you.
Thank you for listening to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with Dan Kennedy. If you love hearing in on these lost Dan Kennedy talks and speeches and calls, then please let someone else know about this podcast. That's how you can help it to grow. And the more it grows, the more free Dan Kennedy we can bring to you. Also, Dan would love to give you the most incredible free gift ever, designed to help you make maximum money in minimum time. Now, this free gift comes with almost $20,000 in pure money-making information for free just for saying maybe. You can get this gift from Dan right now at nobsletter.com. Not only will you get the $20,000 gift, you're also going to get a subscription to 2 marketing newsletters that will be hand-delivered by the mailman to your mailbox each and every month. One from Dan Kennedy and one from me, Russell Brunson. To get this gift and your subscription, go to nobsletter.com right now.